Soulframe has introduced a new dark-themed pact that completely shifts the game's tone and playstyle. After leaning heavily into the game's signature bright fantasy aesthetic, the developers are finally introducing us to a darker and more corrupted theme. This will open the door for a new wave of players who enjoy dark fantasy and want that more sinister look. While we've only been properly teased one new dark pact so far, there are some hints that a second one could also be on the way. Hey guys, how you doing? So Soulframe's new update will finally bring some much-needed dark themes to the game, and it's looking really promising. So here we see the first pact called the Vadagar. This is the early concept art, however in the image we also see a second one kind of, well, at least one that they didn't showcase outright. So I'm pretty sure this one here is just showcasing the pact when in soul mode. For example, let's take Ode Tempest Pact. This is normal when standing, then when holding in soul mode, the pact adds more accessories onto it. So yeah, I'm pretty sure it's just that small transition effect being shown here. Now the special thing about this pact, when you equip it, you get a screen like this which changes your character's virtue mainly to a corrupted version called a Vesper. So this will work pretty much the same as the virtue system, but with little changes, the core concept will remain the same. In the new system, you choose one of the 3 dark virtues that can reshape how you fight and look. Wrath gives you greater life and lets you thrive in the middle of carnage. Basically like the tanky version of this virtue, because courage is the main virtue for health. Death quickens the magic of your pact, which basically means casting more powerful arcane spells, so it's pointing more towards the dark magic side. Doom sharpens the lethality of your strikes, so every hit feels fatal, meaning this will be the stealth virtue. Basically, it's pretty much the same system as the regular virtue system, just with a darker theme and some other small things that we know of. So yeah, your entire UI changes. For example, these 2 sections at the bottom become darker and have a shadowy look to them, but also your soul mode changes as well. We don't know exactly how this will affect the world or even if it'll still be called soul mode, but when using that certain button, instead of a nice golden wave, we get a shadowy, more sinister one getting sent out. The one thing we don't know yet is how this Vesper system will interact with armor and weapons, or if the new Vespers lock you into using only specific armor sets and weapons. That would be pretty disappointing. It would limit build customization a lot, and I doubt many players would be happy with that restriction. On the other hand, they are also introducing a new armor piece that looks dark and a new weapon, so they might just connect it with this system as an experimental run. Those of you who have been playing since the beginning know how the studio likes to experiment, especially while it's still in the pre-alpha stage. But with that being said, they should not touch the virtue system. There were 3 reworks done there already, if I remember correctly, and we don't need more reworks on that again. It's perfect as it is right now. Now, the Vadagar Pact will come with 3 Arcanics, same as your normal pact, except instead of having healing birds and the more normal fantasy spells, we will instead be getting more darker themed stuff, like shadows and that darker fantasy of sorts, which I'm all here for. This is a really smart move by the devs. Soulframe has always had that gorgeous, bright, hopeful fantasy aesthetic that makes it stand out, but for a long time it felt like it was missing that darker edge a lot of players crave. By adding the Vadagar Pact and this full corrupted path, they're opening the doors wide to Souls-like fans, dark fantasy lovers, and anyone who enjoys that edgy aesthetic. From the reactions I've seen across YouTube and the community, the hype is real, and tons of people are saying this is exactly what they've been waiting for, and that it finally makes them want to jump into Soulframe, or come back after stepping away. It's a great way to expand the player base without alienating the existing fans who love the brighter tones, because you can still play the original packs whenever you want. Overall, this feels like a big win for growing the game while staying true to its identity. I mean, don't get me wrong, we don't want an Elden Ring copy and paste, but taking inspiration from that game and many Souls games wouldn't be so bad. And of course, it must still be its own thing, if you know what I mean. So the Vault's Arc ability on this new pact lets you throw guided boomerangs that seek out enemies and can be detonated for powerful explosions. Zephyra's Tendril summons dark snares that look like roots that ensnare and immobilize foes, while stripping away their armor and applying some debuffs. Then finally, there's Osiraxi's Stampede, which as the name implies calls forth a charging horde of corrupted horses that trample enemies and leave behind corrosive pools of damage over time or ichor on the ground. These abilities give the Vadagar Pact more of a magic class feel, so pointing this Vesper to the right would likely go in line with this pact's abilities. But I'm just spitballing here, and the devs could still change some things based on people's feedback of that live demo. Obviously, you'll unlock the Vadagar Pact by playing through the new Warsong's Fable quest. The story centers around your mother and serves as the full introduction to the Dark Corruption system, including the Vadagar Pact, new dark armor sets, weapons, and all the additional corrupted features like the new mount and Raven. There was also a second pact teased that belongs to your mother. The devs didn't show any concept art or full details for it yet, but one thing is clear. She can use at least one of the Arcanics to rain down swords that trap and kill enemies. The studio almost never creates something like this just for a small story moment or a pure aesthetics. They clearly put real resources and development time into it, so even if it doesn't come right away, I'm confident this pact will be added to the game in the future. I have a sneaky feeling it's going to be one of those surprise drops. It matches perfectly with the outfit shown at the end of the live demo, and usually when they do this, the new pact comes with its own unique armor set. Just look at the Duello pact, for example. It arrived with its own signature outfit, so I'm also expecting the Tempest gear to drop alongside this update as well. They already teased that one in a concept image, and I'm really hoping everything arrives before or during the next big expansion. That live demo was easily the best one I've seen for Soulframe so far. I'll put up a link somewhere on screen and in the description if you want to check out that teaser breakdown. So, Soulframe has come a far ways from 1 year ago, where the map was just a fraction of what it is now, and tons of things got added, and even more so got taken away and reworked. But a key thing in all this is that the community is heavily involved, shaping the future of the game. Yes, the devs have their own visions of what the game should have, but ultimately the feedback changes those visions to something we all can enjoy. Now, with that being said, I'll continue pushing for the game to go into the MMO direction. There's so much that can still and probably will still be done in that respect. Adding more hubs across the world is a good way to make it feel more alive. The overworld is fine to keep as it is without making the game truly online, where you could play solo if you wish. But the majority of time players don't really enter the dungeons much unless they need to. I think this is where the true MMO should lie, the dungeons. Making these dungeons more multiplayer-like will give us a reason to enter them. Imagine having different beautiful dungeons that are filled with players, some dungeons corrupt that have these dark themes that the devs are adding, and some dungeons, which are more bright, filled with people, will give us a reason to use those dungeons. And I really can't stress this enough. We definitely need more natural transitions between zones. For example, if you are on this side of the wall and we come through this gate, we should be in a more difficult zone. The devs mentioned that enemies will scale in difficulty, but right now it feels way too artificial. Zones should change naturally based on the environment as you progress through the world. That would make the game feel so much more immersive. Honestly, we don't need all these big walls cutting the map up anymore. For those who haven't been playing since the early days, these walls were originally put in place to block off areas while the game was still in development. Back then, we only had a small region to explore, and the walls were there to stop players from running into unfinished parts of the map. Now that the world has expanded so much, it's time to remove or redesign them for better flow. All in all, this Vadagar Pact feels like a turning point for Soulframe. It's exciting to finally see the game expand in a darker direction while still keeping that signature charm. The future is looking bright and shadowy at the same time. Thanks for watching, and also let me know in the comments section what you are most hyped for with the new expansion. I see and try to reply to all your guys' comments, so yeah, guys, smash that like and subscribe button. We go over patch notes, updates, breakdowns, and pretty much everything to do with Soulframe.